That was probably one of the worst things I could have eaten before this video. I'm sure I've got brown in my teeth now, but I've been addicted. Those Star Wars Oreos are amazing. That's the first time I had the dark side ones. Not that they're different flavors, but they've been exceptional. They've been so exceptional that today I decided to buy the 2 packs at the stores to help me institute some level of control. Like, alright, I can just have a couple at a time. You know, I can't just go in there and clear a rack like I did over this last day. But guys, this is the video where I'm going to talk about my half marathon. I'm going to talk about my trip to CDMX, Mexico City. I'm going to talk about just the experience. I'm going to talk about a little bit of cannabis and CDMX as well. This video has something for everybody. Everybody that follows what I do and follows the path that I've been on recently, I think you'll enjoy this one. So stick around. So if you've been watching my videos recently, you know that I was training, or I actually am training to run the full marathon in Mexico City at the end of August. But I last week did a small training, or just small preparation stuff, to run the half marathon in Mexico City. And the half marathon is to prepare for the full marathon. I didn't want to be completely shocked for the full marathon. Before this last week, I had never been to Mexico City before, so I wanted to know what it was like breathing wise with the altitude. I wanted to know how it felt to my legs, considering it's not as flat as Chicago. I just wanted to know the experience. I wanted to know how far everything was from the race and the start and the end. I wanted to know stuff about nutrition, how hard it would be to find. Obviously, it's going to be easy to find food, but the types of food I would want before the race. All those things. I don't ever want to go into a marathon completely blind, and I'm sure in the future I will just travel to a marathon and not have gone to the city before. But considering this was an international one, and considering I needed a vacation, I figured it was a great time to just enjoy the half marathon, bring some friends along, bring Nicole with me, and get a nice weekend to pretty much like a 5-day trip to Mexico City. So to start, I took off for the flight on Thursday night, and then from Chicago I had a layover in Houston, and it ended up being an overnight layover, so I landed in Houston at probably between 1 and 2 a.m., and the next flight took off at 6:30 a.m. I'm not as rich of a person, or that rich of a person, to go get a $200 hotel room right by the hotel for 3 hours, so we ended up just crashing. It was a horrible night's sleep. It is something that next time I will certainly try to avoid, but it was what I felt was best. I didn't feel like I should get a direct flight to Mexico City and try to figure out Mexico City at 1:30 a.m. I wanted to get there in the morning when I could meet the at least doorman of the Airbnb and everything, and I knew that we were safe in the area. It was just so much unfamiliarity. I'd rather just crash tonight in the airport than be stuck out not knowing what the hell I'm doing out in Mexico City. So in the morning we ended up flying from Houston to Mexico City. Easy flight. It says 2.5 hours. It feels so short, and the time zone changes. It will be American Mountain West time. They consider it Central Time in Mexico, but for America it'd be technically Mountain West. So I went back an hour than what I'm used to living at Central Time here in Chicago. But when I got there, it was 9:30 a.m. So we had a full day ahead of us, and we couldn't check in until noon. So we were able to just leave the bags, luckily, in the Airbnb. Then we went and got some food. And then after we got some food and kind of hung out around the Airbnb a little bit, and on that first day, I ended up going on a 7-mile run. I ran that Friday when I got there because I wanted to immediately somewhat acclimate myself. I had done 5 miles. That was a part of my training on the Thursday. Friday, I wasn't planned to do a long run. I was supposed to do one Saturday in terms of my marathon training, but I started to do it Friday just to get out of the way, just to see how I would need to fuel myself, just to see how much water I need to be drinking, just to see how much electrolytes I would need, because out there it is the hottest, cool place you've ever been. I'm dumping sweat, but at the same time it's not that hot outside. I think it's because my body, and Nicole was saying this too, I think it's just because my body was working extra hard because of the elevation, because of what I wasn't used to, and because of fatigue. I hadn't slept when it came to Friday at all. Like, I had slept 3 hours the night before, maybe 4 hours the night before, essentially. Maybe passed out on the flight a little bit, but I hadn't had any good rest. So my body was running fatigued, hungry, but I just wanted to kind of feel what it was like. And as I did that first 7-mile run, I stopped by the Stella de Luz, which is like this huge pole, pretty much. A huge piece of metal in Mexico City. I'll put on the screen. And outside of that is like one of the 3 like legal cannabis consumption zones in the city. They have some kind of gray area with legalization in terms of possession and sales and stuff. But I was able to procure some at the Stella de Luz. They have a little station set up, and then you can kind of roll up and smoke at that location. I didn't smoke that time. I didn't really know before, so I just kind of stopped in, bought some. I think it ended up being $5 US a gram. Yeah, they mostly sold about the gram there. It ended up being $5 US a gram. I just copped a couple grams to see what it was like. I asked them for the best, and they said it was $5 a gram. I'm not exactly sure. They could really give you anything, but then I ended up just running. And then I had a couple miles back to the Airbnb, went back to the Airbnb, and yeah, then that's when I showered everything, and then we went to the packet pickup. I wanted to go get the packet like early, just to make sure that nothing would be wrong, just to make sure that it was a smooth process. So yeah, after we ate, after we checked into the Airbnb, we headed over to get the packet, and then I realized the packet pickup, oh gosh, there's still a lot of Spanish I don't know. I am someone who is actually pretty good at speaking Spanish, if I'm being real with y'all. Like, I definitely am able to order food, talk to people, get around. But for some stuff, like running specific stuff or packet specific stuff, like what the bibs would be called, and just keeping up with the different paperwork, and they needed a copy, which I've never seen before. They needed a picture copy of everyone's license, which even people from Mexico were surprised about. We ended up all having to go to the papeleria around the corner where they print out pages for you. You can buy pens and stuff like that. And there were long lines because there's 30,000 people planning to run the half marathon. So there were long lines at that store, and we ended up finding another like print shop around the corner that was a somewhat shorter line. We were able to get that, go back and get the packet, and they had a full Adidas store set up in there. They had all these different stations set up in there. A lot of stuff that in America would be for a full marathon. I have run half marathons before, and I've seen other people go to half marathons. I have never seen such a full stop convention for a half marathon. Like a full Adidas store with, I think it was 20% off everything, including like the shoes and stuff in there. Like, it was a great deal. Although I feel like a lot of those shoes, because they're imported, we ended up going to a Nike store later on, whatever, they kind of start off more expensive. So any deals kind of bring some of those shoes back to American price. But I might get into that later. But yeah, so once I got the packet, once I just took some pictures in there, per usual, all that, my friends finally flew in from out of town. And in that same afternoon, with the packet pickup and everything, I went to a brand that people suggested to me out there. If you guys aren't that familiar with running has had a huge uptick in like hype, kind of, but popular, nice running brands. And Mexico City's, it seems to me, biggest one is called Hermanos Komori. I don't exactly know how to pronounce it perfectly, but HK for short, let's call it. And so we went to one of their pop-up shops where they had specific half marathon gear, and I bought some half tights that I planned on racing in. And I don't usually splurge on stuff like half tights. I think they ended up being US like $90. So people who aren't running, like, people be like, some half tights or some compression shorts essentially for $90. Yes, that is the world that we're living in. If they had been an American company, they would have been $140, $150 for sure. They were only $90 simply because it's a Mexican company, and it's just adjusted a little bit for that. But they had such nice stuff. They wanted so much of my money, but it was the first day, and I didn't want to spend all my money in one place, so I decided to leave. And then that evening, we went and got some Italian food with some friends at this nice Italian restaurant called Rosetta, which is in Roma Norte, I believe. And just enjoyed the end of the first day. It was a tough flight for my friends. They got stranded in Houston. They were coming from Houston. They got stranded in Houston at the airport for like 4 or 5 hours extra just because of weather. So they ended up getting in much later than they were originally planning on getting in. But it was cool once they got there. We had got all my stuff done. I had got to run already. I had got to go get my packet. I had gone to go to the running store. And so I kind of got all my stuff set out of the way, and they pulled up, and then we went to dinner, and then first night was over. I was exhausted at the end of Friday because of the lack of the sleep the night before, the running long distance, adjusting to the altitude, now eating at foreign food restaurants, stuff like that. Yeah, just moving around and walking miles and miles already. I was ready to pass out. And so flash forward to Friday. Friday, we had decided to go back to HK, to Hermanos, and join them for the 8:30 group run. It wasn't too far from us, only like a 15-minute walk, so we walked over there, and we ended up being kind of like, friends ended up being kind of late. It was a little bit disorganized, just how we were trying to get there, and I pretty much didn't really get to run with the group too much, but got to run with friends, was shown a new run path over in Condessa that's just a loop that you run in a loop in. And so we got to do a cool 5K. And then afterwards, they had some like refreshments, some drinks, some hydration stuff for the race the next day, some snacks. I think they had some like chocolate tamales, and then they had some like bean tamale or something like that. But yeah, they had just a few snacks there for us. Obviously, they're selling products still. Met some people that were from LA. Shout out Koreatown Run Club over there in LA. Met some cool people from there. And just got to like be a part of the community. Got to stretch with another run group that had joined in. I got to take some cool pictures. It's just fun being in a run club and being in a run group. My friends don't usually run in run groups, so it was cool exposing them a little bit more to that world. And it was just an overall great morning, which led us to breakfast and just kind of starting the tourist section of the trip. And next time when I go back for the full marathon, this is something that I will for sure cut out. I will not be doing any tourist stuff really the days leading up to the race. You can walk a tremendous amount in Mexico City, more than Chicago, because of the size of the city, and it was really wearing my legs out. We went to the Anthropology Museum, which is by far the nicest museum I've ever been to. After we left the Anthropology Museum, then we went to this restaurant Polanco that's called Uno by Real Madrid. And so there's a place that had burgers and shakes, and they had a full Real Madrid section where you could get a personalized jersey, which my friend did. Oh, and then in the back, they have like live FIFA tournaments where you're like playing for jerseys and shit. And I think it was like a week and a half wait list to be able to play there. But it was just a cool themed place that really showed me that like Mexico City has a lot of shit. There's a lot of stuff that you wouldn't expect it to have maybe, and just stuff we don't have here. Like it had pretty much everything we have here plus more, just because of the amount of people there and the amount of clash of cultures and the amount of different like things that are important to them. Like soccer's so big that you could have a Real Madrid store there with people that are hanging out constantly and love the burgers and all that. It really just opened my mind up to what Mexico City was, even in just that first day, with the grandness of the Anthropology Museum, along with how nice the Polanco area is, along with that restaurant I'm talking to you guys about, along with then going back to the Airbnb after that and just chilling, but getting to go to restaurants around me. That day I went to a dispensary. I think it's pretty much the only dispensary in Mexico City. I went to a dispensary that's in Roma Norte. They had the products I wanted because I wasn't necessarily too happy with the flower. If somebody was wondering how flower was from the Estela de Luz public sales place, it wasn't great. It was like some outdoor weed that'll work, that like could get you lit, but not what I wanted. At the dispensary, they had some shit from Cali, they had some shit from Sinaloa up north in Mexico, and so I got like 3 grams of some of like their best strains. And at the dispensary, it honestly wasn't cheap. I ended up paying for those 3 grams like $56, guys. So just so you know, that's not, I mean, I got some of the best stuff evidently that they had, but still, it wasn't at the dispensary close to as cheap as the $5 a gram that it was at Facility Loose, but it was better quality. Like, it was mid-shelf Cali stuff that you could find in the dispensary. And so, kind of wrapping up that day, my legs were feeling okay the day before the race. I ran 7 miles a day, 5, then a 7, then a 3, plus probably 7 miles of walking. So I had put some mileage, I had put some wear on my legs, if you will. But I also knew and wasn't too worried about it because I knew I wasn't going to like PR this half marathon. The half marathon I knew was a lot of climbing. Like the first 8K was climbing. I didn't really know how hard of climbing it was, but I knew, considering I don't climb that much here in Chicago, I knew it was going to be a struggle. And so the night before the race, I ended up just Uber Eats some food over there. They have Uber Eats, whatever. And by the way, Uber is like half the price. Uber Eats is like the same. The food stuff is like pretty much the exact same as here. But if you're Ubering, you could Uber around the city for like max like $8 for most places you're going, which is obviously a complete change and switch up from ours. You go to like over multiple areas into another borough and stuff easily over there. And get around and it not be too expensive. So that is a nice thing. But I got some fajitas Uber Eats in with some rice. I still don't think I ate enough because that's something else that surprised me. I guess I'm so used to like Tex-Mex and American Mexican food. The portions over there weren't that big, if I'm being honest. It wasn't like I left most of the meals feeling stuffed. You just have to get multiple dishes if you want to be stuffed. But if you get one dish, it's not going to be like how in America, typically, where you're just like stuffed after one dish. You'll be full, you'll be good enough to move on, but it's not leaving Mexican restaurants there how you leave Mexican restaurants here, in my opinion. And so on the race packet, the race day packet pretty much, or the race day instructions, there were 2 start times. One part on the start time it says 6 a.m., one said 7 a.m. I know the full marathon starts at 6, so I really figured, I was like, all right, they put 2 start times on there. Maybe they let like the wheelchair people go at 6 or something like that, you know, like the impaired runners. And so I was like, I was planning on 7 o'clock, and so I thought I was getting there early. I got there at like 6:30. Early enough, because I warmed up some at home, got there at 6:30, it wasn't too far away. Just try to give myself that time before the race, because the city wasn't that big, there wasn't that much space to just chill out there, and it was kind of cool, so I thought I was doing okay, to be honest. But it ended up being that my corral left at 6:15, guys. You guys don't know how upset I was. I was like, I traveled all the way out here and I'm late. And I had read in the packet, if you're late to your corral and you run with a different corral, it's automatic disqualification. Which doesn't matter. It's not like we're racing for anything. Like, if you run 13.1 miles out there, it's not like you cheated or something. You just ran in a different corral, and which multiple people did. It was confusing. The fact that they had 2 start times on there really confused me. And then when you look in like the public websites, you can't trust all websites from Mexico stuff, for real. There were some restaurants that weren't really there anymore that are still on there from Google and from probably like COVID closing. There's just stuff in Mexico that's not necessarily as cut and dry as America, or not necessarily, I wouldn't say cut and dry, but maybe reliable in terms of like online information. So I say all this to say, I started the race like 15 minutes later than I was supposed to, but I still got a solid time, and it just took me like 2 or 3 miles to forgive myself, for real. Just to navigate running with this 30,000 person crowd, being stuck in, like not really being able to stretch your legs out in the race. having to start super slow, which probably benefited me a lot considering I wasn't used to all that climbing. So it ended up being perfect. It ended up being the corral I probably should be in. The energy for the race was amazing. There were people all out there. There was bands. People dressed up. You don't get to enjoy that on race day. You get to enjoy it in bits and pieces. Like when you really need some help, you can grasp for a crowd member. You can grasp to touch a sign for a power up. You can grasp and look at a child like cheering for you like crazy and stuff. You can really get that energy that you need from the crowd when you need it, but you don't really get to enjoy the crowd. It's really more fun to chill on the side. Like I said, racing is stressful. But once I had forgiven myself, once it was 30 minutes into the race and I was starting to fuel myself, starting to take the salt tablets I needed, starting to take the gels, I'm getting used to biting the bags, which I think I like the bags better. Because I would grab a couple bags and I would slip one into like my half tight pockets, and I would have, now I have a bag in my pocket, I have this bag here, I put it on my head or whatever, cool down a little bit, and then be just like sucking from the nipple of this bag type shit, essentially. And that's the system. I have never raced with water bags before, but I can't say that it really messed with me. I can't say that I had a problem with it. I actually think I really preferred it, if I'm being real. But it was just a cool experience. Like, you're running on cobblestones. You are getting to look up some and see all the different people around you. People are cheering for you in a different language. I'm definitely one of maybe 2 black runners I saw, like, which is not bad to me. Like, it's not good, it's not bad. I'm really not used to seeing, there's not usually a ton of black people to race. Like, the elites will be black people from like Africa and stuff, but in terms of normal African Americans, not to say that Kenyans aren't normal, but I'm just saying like a typical African American person, even here in the States, there aren't many races where there's just a lot of us there. So it's not like that aspect was too different for me. But I truly enjoyed the experience. I got to run what I was happy with. I think I ended up with a 1:57:30. So I went sub 2 hours at 7,200 feet. Just adjusting after the conditions I told you about before. I think if I had been paced and I hadn't been so frazzled and I got to warm up like I was supposed to, I think I could have ran like legit like 6 minutes faster, but still nothing crazy. I think I would have been low 150s maybe with the right pacing, right group, stuff like that. Even with resting too. But I wouldn't trade in all the stuff I did to run a little bit better time that's not going to get me anything. Going to the museum, hanging out with friends, hanging out with Nicole. And my friends' names, actually, guys, I haven't said that. Emmanuel and Hawkins are their name. But hanging out with those guys and my girlfriend was definitely a much more useful experience than running 6 minutes faster or something like that. I in no way regret it. Because after the race, since it started so early and I'm done under 2 hours, that means I was done by like 8:39. And so it was done. I think it was 9:30 when I got to them. Like when I finished walking through, when I got my medal, when I got some Gatorade, stuff like that at the end of the race that you get the little finisher bag, which is nice that they give it to you. There was plenty of time. There's plenty of time to go hang out. There's plenty of time to go to a brunch restaurant before the soccer game came on there at 1 o'clock because of time zone stuff. And that first game is the Euros, so that was Spain versus England. And for that, we just went back to the Airbnb and chilled. Grabbed some beers and just got to relax, guys. I don't know if y'all know how happy I was for the race to be over. I think I said this in an earlier video. There is nothing better about race day than the race being over. At the 20-kilometer mark, I had started to cramp pretty bad, and like my adductors, like in between my legs. But I was able to finish very strong still, as strong as I wanted to, but it also shows me, all right, I need to relax. I need to prepare a lift right now, but I also need to relax for sure the days before the marathon. Like, that was a very good lesson for me. But it was also the perfect distance to where when you're staying there for a short amount of time and you don't want to ruin a trip, run a half marathon. If you're in good shape, run a half marathon, because you can finish a half marathon is like finishable. It's like, it's predictable a little bit. It's tough, but it's still doable. The marathon, I'm glad this last race wasn't a marathon. I'm so glad I got this half marathon to prepare for what this next step is. I don't know what I would do. Like, in terms of, I just feel so blessed that I made the decision to run that half marathon, knowing that I have the full coming up. And so as we watched the game, as we chilled, I ended up later going to, they have like an Amsterdam style like coffee shop pretty much, where you could sit outside and smoke J's or your bowl or whatever, and then go inside or sit outside there and have some tea, have some coffee, or have some beer. And so I ended up going to go chill there later, just recover. This is walking distance for me, probably about 15 minutes. And then it started storming, and I was planning on going out with the guys and my girlfriend that night to go watch Copa. And I ended up not doing that because it was storming, and it was a great idea. I was tired. I was trying to push it just because I was on vacation. But I ended up just being like, nah, I'm not going to go out. It was starting to flood. And so I was like, let me just chill. And so that's exactly what I did. Nicole and I chilled at the Airbnb, watched some of Copa, passed out. I probably woke up with them in overtime, I think that one finished in overtime. I definitely woke up with them in maybe the 92nd minute. So yeah, 93rd minute. So it was an overtime. Got to watch a great overtime, and then I got to go out. I went out solo, all by myself that night to this local taco spot because I needed to write. I hadn't written the morning pages, something I do every day. I hadn't written those pages, and so I went out and wrote my morning pages. It was late at night, obviously, but if you don't write them in the morning, you gotta write them sometime. So I went out, wrote my morning pages, and just chilled and ate tacos and just looked around. Just took a moment to be like, okay, I'm in Mexico City, you know, I'm taking all this in, I'm seeing all this new stuff, these people chill here. It's just relaxed. If you're eating out in Mexico, tons of people walk up to you trying to sell you stuff. Somebody tried to sell me something, somebody tried to sell me some magic, and then a lady went over to the next thing with a karaoke machine, and she would sing you the song, and so the people next to us paid for her to sing songs for them. It's just taking in that energy as I rode, and obviously eating the tacos and just enjoying myself, realizing everything I had done to make it to that point. Because making trips happen isn't easy. A lot of people don't travel much, and a lot of people certainly don't like international travel, and certainly don't run races internationally. And that's not a reason to do something, but it is a reason to be grateful for the position that I was in. And I felt very content in that kind of chilly Mexico City night. In the mornings and the evening, it's kind of chilly there. It's 50s, and we're in July. So it's definitely high altitude, temperate temperature, temperate climate, they call it. This is Sunday. So not a lot of stuff was open. I ended up leaving there midnight, and I would say I felt more comfortable walking on the streets there at midnight than I do here in Chicago at midnight. And I know a lot of people will be worried about safety stuff, and I get that, but a lot of people will be worried, and that kind of just, for me, I'm not too worried about it. I understand Spanish. I'm able to speak it. I'm able to feel comfortable around there, and the streets were comfortable to walk around at night and during the day. At no point did I feel in danger. Chicago can get kind of sketchy. So the city I'm coming from is definitely one thing, but I'm just here to tell you that I felt comfortable where I was. So on Monday, we got up and I ended up going to the gym. My friend Emmanuel had a nice rooftop gym at his hotel. So I got a lift in, because I know that this current week, this is like peak week for me. For like these next couple weeks are big weeks for me. I think I'm supposed to run, I have 43 this week. I think I have 43 this week, so I think that's as high as my training plan has me going in a week. I think I've previously run 47, but with a shorter long run, I have a 20-mile long run. So I'm saying that to say I wanted to prepare for that, but still be on vacation and everything. So I just got a 30-40 minute workout in, and then we ended up going to a breakfast spot around the corner. And Mexico, they just give you more stuff. Like, to start the meal at this restaurant, they gave us a cup of orange juice, I think a cup of fruit, a pancake, plus obviously if you wanted some water or something like that, and tea. And I think plus my meal, it came out to probably $21 between Nicole and I. And on the bill, none of that first stuff I named, that was like chips and salsa. You know, like they didn't add that to the meal. So a lot of these restaurants, especially if it was Mexican food at the restaurant, they bless you. And after that, we went to the craziest museum I've ever seen, at least design-wise, Museo Sumaya. Sumaya Museum. It's a free art museum. I think the Anthropological Museum, I've forgotten to give prices if people just want some reference, was like $8. And I think that's one of the few that you have to pay for. This was a free museum, and it had a lot of Rodin, it had a lot of very famous art in it, and definitely a lot of like remakes and stuff, but still a museum very much so worth going to. And then Emmanuel left, so Emmanuel didn't stay for the rest of the time we were there. We ended up leaving Tuesday afternoon, and so after that we walked around. I saw like the nicest outdoor mall, which is right outside of this huge indoor mall. Mexico City has so much stuff, and at that point I was tired. Not tired of Mexico City, just tired in general. Still recovering from the lift after the race the day before, and plus the running, plus catching up, not sleeping well all the time. And especially, I don't think any of us really slept well, because it takes time to get used to breathing at that high of elevation at night. It's just like it all was like coming to a head. And so I just wanted to take more time to chill. So after we left the mall and I got back to the Airbnb, I just went out to La Juanita, the cafe, the weed cafe I was telling you guys about. And I just went and sat and wrote again by myself. I sat there, had a couple beers, I had like 3 J's. I just sat there and smoked and chilled, guys. And it was a great experience. It was just another time just soaking, bro. You smoking weed in Mexico City, chilling. And that just felt good. It felt good to talk on the phone with a friend and just relax and just be in that setting and just see stuff that I'm not used to seeing and write that down. And just the experience was great. And then we just kind of capped off the trip, if you will, with a nice like sushi / Japanese dinner at this like 56th floor restaurant by Chapultepec Park. And my friend, he invited a couple of women that he had met out in Mexico City, and they just hung out with us at dinner. I think they hit him up to hang out, and we just sat around, Spanish going back and forth, and English going back and forth. They're trying to learn a little bit more English, we trying to learn a little bit more Spanish. Just an overall cool experience. Because earlier in the day, actually, we had gone out to eat with Nicole's family, because Nicole has some family in Mexico City. And with that experience, we were also able to just go back and forth speaking English, speaking Spanish. So we got to really practice our Spanish Some Mexican people really got to practice their English, the perfect trade, and we were really able to meet some really nice people. Pretty much everybody I was meeting, I got a couple confused looks, like why you here type looks, but pretty much everybody I met during the whole entire trip was very, very nice. People look at black people a certain type of way a lot of times. After the race, I didn't bring this up, after the race, a few people had asked to take selfies and take pictures of me just because I was black. No other reason, because I definitely wasn't running that fast. I wasn't in the elite group or anything like that, but I was just a black dude that they weren't used to seeing. And they're like, can we take a picture? And I was like, it's whatever. What do you do with that picture? Who do you show that picture? I met this black dude. Like, I don't even know what you do with that picture, but I was too tired to process it. And so, as Monday came to an end, after we go out to eat, we go to this really nice, like, cool, chill bar. It was just a nice bar. They had like music playing, and which are playing off of records, and just chilling, having a couple of drinks. Just now us as a collective group taking in, like, y'all, we in Mexico City chilling, hanging out. We live in different cities usually, but we came together and had a great time. It was like just another example, another time for us to take what I had been writing solo and put it all together and be like, gosh, we're blessed to be where we're at right now. So rinse, repeat, we get up on Tuesday and we go running. I'm in my marathon training. I needed to get 5 miles in. So Hawkins and I went running on Tuesday morning, then got our stuff together, ate, walked around, and it was time to head over to the airport after that. And as I was headed to the airport, I didn't feel that bad leaving, just because, one, I hadn't slept that great, and I like the normalcy no matter where you're at, and as much as I enjoyed the trip, I was looking forward to that, and I know I'm going back very, very soon. So I was able to just kind of be like a more of like, see you soon, Mexico City, not so much like, damn, I don't know if I'm ever going to go back. Because there's places you travel, and at least in the tax bracket I'm at, I'm like, who knows when I'll get to go back to some of these places, but knowing I'm going back soon does feel good. Mexico City was an amazing experience. I got to eat some very good food. I got to meet some very nice people. I got to see some incredible architecture, some very cool art. Got to smoke some decent weed. The dispensary weed that I was smoking at La Juanita and stuff was cool. You can, like, at night step out on a corner and smoke some, but during the day it's a little bit sketchy. Like, Mexico City, people are out everywhere all the time. And when you see police, a lot of police are like guarding buildings and all this other type of stuff. You don't really know the levels of police. Like I could easily tell a security guard from a policeman here in the U.S. Mexico, not so much. Like there'll be what might be a security guard or a policeman holding like an M16 right here, you know. And you're like, I don't know what this dude is for, but I want to smoke weed around him and deal with that. So if you are a weed smoker, definitely keep your wits about you, or just go to the area, find an Airbnb that has like a balcony that you can smoke on and not worry about it too much. That's one step. Go to one of the legal smoke zones / La Juanita, or just miss out on it for the trip. But I would definitely suggest be smart, because I don't want to sit here and just act like it's just sweet, like I just felt comfortable smoking wherever, as if I was in Chicago and New York, because that's not the case. I don't know, there are options, I guess. There are options to buy it, there are options to smoke it, but you just need to be smart. So the race went well. I had a great time with friends. Nicole and I had a great time together. The Airbnb situation was pretty good. I can't be too upset about it. There's stuff that we're used to that they just, like, a lot of their buildings just don't have AC. And a lot of time you don't really need it, but I like it super cold when I sleep. And so, like, if I stayed there long term, I would need like a little AC, even just like personal unit in the room, just because I would want it super cold in there. A lot of their places aren't like that. It's kind of just, I think people are just more adjusted to it or whatever. But guys, if you have any questions about running a race in Mexico City, if you have any questions about Mexico City or whatever, feel free to DM me or put it in the comments below. I had an amazing time out there. I'm happy with how the race went. And I am going to keep pushing forward with this marathon training. I plan on making more running content for you guys, for myself even, just to keep myself motivated. You guys keep me motivated. Guys, it's been another episode on the Grant Patterson channel, and I'll see you guys next time.
Nosotros somos el grupo Colinocelo, que traducido del náhuatl al castellano es movimiento de jaguar.